But we need to shift the conversation as well. I think we need to also add a couple of other things. It's economic security, dummy. If you don't believe in climate change, it's economic security. Because if you paid $4 a gallon, drive to a minimum wage job in this state last year, what did your child do with that? What house payment could you not make? What job did you lose as a result of it? It's economic security, and it's also national security. Because years ago when we decided that oil was going to be a part of what we're doing to keep our economic engine going, we went to the Middle East where it was easier and cheaper to find. They were willing participants, and we negotiated with them 75 years ago. Along came World War II, and we were able to fight and keep that area away from Hitler, who was not able to keep the oil that he needed to maybe defeat the rest of the world. And so we continued to engage. Israel came along, regardless of what position you take. This country supported it, a democracy in the Middle East. And then we saw all hell break loose. And so as our business people negotiated, I'm not talking about because Israel became a nation, but as our folks negotiated, our business people negotiated with the Arab nations, there were those who continued to get more and more and more radical. They have a lot of oil in the Middle East. And as a result of that, they have made our national security at issue for us. And if we don't believe that getting closer and closer and closer to energy independence, and I'm not necessarily talking about self-sustainability completely from this country, but I'm talking about closer to energy independence where we don't have to have the Middle East. Or, quite frankly, if there's someone who decides they don't like us even in our hemisphere, we need to talk to them about it if they do. If they do, and we usually can. We neighbors get along. And so, but if that happens, the closer we get to energy independence, we will have economic security and we will have national security as well. And so, who's going to make that happen? The Republicans? Probably not a one of them will vote. Not a one of those will vote. What they're saying is drill, baby, drill, drill here, drill now. Let's talk about education a moment. Over the years, starting in the 70s, we have reached down and helped a lot of individuals who were not super academic achievers. My wife's a teacher. This will be her last year that she's teaching. Second grade, first grade for 14 years, Mom, is that right? Second grade for what, 8 or 10? That's been a while. Then when she went from first grade to second grade, she thought she'd graduated to college. She didn't have to worry about going to yard sales and getting clothes. Because first graders do have accidents, you know. But what we did in the 70s is that every person in the educational system in this country ought to have an opportunity to have tutoring if necessary. And so special education became a reality. And what we have done with that, we have trained workers that are working in our workforce today that may have never been able to enter the workforce. They're living a better life because we've reached out and helped them with academic skills in math and science and in language skills. It's worked, folks. It has worked for us. But there's an area where that we failed, in my opinion. There are those at the other end of that spectrum that we have not adequately challenged. I went to Seattle and met with this fellow named Bill Gates. Man, he's a dude, I want to tell you. He couldn't talk to me. I couldn't talk to him. He could talk big talk, and I could talk little talk, but we couldn't talk together. He sat there and rocked back and forth. And just, I don't know whether he was saying leave or whether that was embarrassing, but this is what he told me. Of the several thousand people who work in this facility, they're all well educated. But 80% of them don't look like you, Lincoln, and they don't sound like me. He said, don't sound like you either. They came from Asia, where there's a merit-based educational system. They came from the Middle East, some from Africa, and many from Europe. The best and brightest come to this country for a reason. Why? We've got a merit-based system in higher education, right, Gita? If you don't make it in college, what happens? Out the door you go. So here's the problem that we have. I think we've done wonders, and we can do a whole lot better in special education at a certain level. But we got to have special education for the best and brightest as well. If we don't challenge those young minds and get those young folks prepared and realize that when they get in college, they will be challenged. I know a young student who had a 31 degree on ACT, had a 31 on the ACT average, 35 in language, 27 in math, majored in an engineering course. You know, the only course he flunked was math. He had a 27 average on the ACT. But this quarter, he's retaking that same course. He'll make an A on it. Why? He was exposed at that level. We have to expose those at the upper potential achievability levels at the same rate that we are those to bring them up to where they can become a part of our society. These young individuals I'm talking about will be the inventors. They'll be the ones who will find cures for our diseases, treatments for our diseases. And they will be the ones who will find a way for us to be able to become energy independent in the future. Those three issues will be done by whom? Democrats. Because every Republican in the U.S. House of Representatives will say what? No. We KNOW what needs to be done. And all they can do is say no. We've all got to get together. We have a burden ahead of us. But our motto and our symbol is a donkey. Stubborn as hell. Kick your brains out. But will pack a load heavier than any other beast of burden in the world. Let's put our backpacks on. Let's travel this state. Let's elect senators and Democrat senators and Democrat House members. So not to reclaim the majority, but to recapture Tennessee for what's right. Thank you, and God bless you for having me tonight. I'm not completely through yet. Sit back down. Also, about a year and 3 or 4 months ago, many of us thought Hillary Clinton was going to be the nominee. And she would have been a good one. But there was this young fella who knew how to organize at the grassroots level. We've got a chairman who understands that too. And those of you in this room understand that. It's the grassroots organization that will win back the majority in Tennessee. Chip, thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you.